Hello fellow coffee botherers, in this video we're going to be talking about the Casa Brews Ultra Espresso machine. This was sent to me on loan by Casa Brews. I'll ask them if they want it back, and if they don't, I'll invite them to give it away via one of the future Coffee Blog giveaways. To see the current giveaway, see coffeeblog.co.uk/giveaway. Casa Brews is a relatively new coffee machine brand and one of several that have emerged over the past few years with machines that look spookily reminiscent of Sage or Breville machines. I try to swerve machines like this simply because there are so many similar options out there. And the issue for me with machines like this, and I'm not talking specifically about Casa Brews now, I'm talking generally about the plethora of lower priced apparent Sage or Breville alternatives, is that replicas aren't necessarily alternatives. The reason Sage or Breville have done so well is they've nailed the fundamentals of espresso, while also making their machines more affordable, more user friendly and more kitchen friendly than the more traditional home barista espresso machines on the market. The machines nearly always have 9-bar overpressure valves, PIDs, pump controlled gentle ramp up pre-infusion, and all except the Bambino and Temp Pro have 3-way solenoid valves. This is what makes their machines good, and you can replicate the looks of the machine at a much lower price, but if you're not replicating these fundamentals, you're producing a cheaper replica, not an alternative. If you have a Ferrari kit car with a standard 1.8 litre engine, for example, I don't think anyone would refer to that as an alternative to a Ferrari, as it's what's under the bonnet or hood that matters. Sometimes I'm surprised though. So when enough people pester me about a machine like this, as you have been doing with the Casa Brews and also the Pro Cook machines, I can only do an ostrich impression for so long before I cave in and get hold of one. And yes, by the way, I will be reviewing the Pro Cook machines, as enough people have been nudging me about them, especially the Barista Elite. So is this going to be one of the lower priced machines that takes me by surprise? Let's find out. Starting with the specs. Dimensions: 32 cm wide, 39.5 cm tall, 36 cm deep. Thermoblock heater, 58mm group and portafilter, single and double baskets, standard and pressurised, adjustable PID or PID, just to please the acronym police, 4 temperature settings, 20-bar vibration pump, 2.2 litre water tank, actually closer to 2.5 litres, so they've under-promised and over-delivered there. Low water tank alarm, in theory, but with this particular unit they've over-promised and under-delivered, as it doesn't appear to work. Programmable volumetric single and double shot buttons, shot timer with 0.5 second increments, steam timer with 0.5 second increments, pre-brew type pre-infusion, LCD interface, deceptively large 0.5 litre drip tray, Pro steam wand with a single hole tip, proper tamper, lightweight and plastic but a proper tamper nonetheless. First impressions. The first thing I thought when this has been unboxed is it looks even more like a Sage or Breville machine than a Sage or Breville machine, which is a real accomplishment. It looks like a cross between the Bambino and the Temp Pro, but that aside, it looks and feels really quite impressive for the money. It's fairly compact, but has a big enough footprint to make it feel quite stable and secure. It's roughly this tall, by the way, and that was specifically for Dan Stagg in the comments. There's a bit more stainless steel and a bit less plastic than I'd expected, and overall I'm surprised by the way it looks given the price tag, which leads us nicely to how much does it cost? At the time of filming, the RRP in the UK is €199.99, €259.99 in Germany, and $249.99 in America. I'll put links in the description. There'll be affiliate links, so if you buy using these links, you'll be supporting this channel. Cheers! Speaking of supporting the channel, we now have memberships. For the measly price of £1.99, which probably won't even buy you half a pint these days, maybe 3 Freddos if you're lucky, you'll get a members-only community, early access to videos, members shout-outs, priority comment replies, fun emojis, and more coming soon. By the way, if you're a member, stick around to the end to hear the members' shout-outs. Temperature control. This machine has an adjustable PID or PID, as I've mentioned, which means an algorithmic temperature controller, which usually produces better temperature stability than a simple thermostat would. This doesn't make it the only machine at this kind of price to have a PID. The Gaggia Espresso Style Deluxe and Evolution, for example, do have one. But a sub £200 machine with an adjustable PID is quite special. In fact, at least when it comes to the established brands, I can't think of any other machine at this price that does. Some have adjustable temperature, but thermostats, not PIDs. This is a PID-controlled machine with 4 brew temperature settings: 90, 92, 94 and 96 degrees Celsius, 194, 198, 201 and 205 degrees Fahrenheit. How good the PID control is, whether it's as good as the PID on the Sage or Breville machines, I can't tell you. Pester Lance Hedrick and see if he'll do a more nerdy video with this scase. But what I will say is I'd rather have a PID than a thermostat. Speed, temperatures, loudness and all that jazz. This heats up in just under a minute and it beeps to tell you it's ready. Steam ready time after pressing the steam button is about 22 seconds, and steaming 170ml of milk to 60 degrees Celsius takes about a minute, so about 1 minute 20 seconds or so, including the steam heat up time. This is in the UK with 220 volt power. It'll probably be slightly slower with 110 volt power. Don't ask me why, I don't know what's what. Sorry, that was shocking. Can't think of any more. If you can, please let me know in the comments. Make them positive. Lol. Shot ready time after steaming is about 20 seconds. Just press the hot water button after finishing steaming to activate the cool down. Hot water temperature is in the mid-80s and it takes about 54 seconds to deliver 200ml of hot water. It's quiet. The pump is one of the quietest I've come across at this kind of price. It's about 7 or 8 decibels quieter than the Temp Pro and Bambino Plus. 42 decibels. Not that this really makes much difference, as the sound of grinding, knocking out the puck and steaming milk is all much louder than this regardless of the machine. It's not just quieter though, the vibrations aren't as violent, which means the cup isn't wanting to dance off the drip tray. What's the pre-infusion like? This is a pre-brew type version of pre-infusion, meaning about 2.5 seconds of water entering the group at full pressure, a 2.5 second pause, and then full pressure extraction. Honestly, I don't think the pre-infusion type really matters all that much if you're using more traditional espresso roast for more classic espresso. If you're not and you're aiming to use light roast single origins, for example, then pre-infusion matters more and you'd probably want more control over it. To be fair, I wouldn't be recommending trying to get good results with light roast with any entry-level machine anyway. There's a reason people spend several thousands on machines like this, for example. Because getting good espresso with light roast beans requires far more precision and control. Pump pressure. This has a 20 bar pump. The blurb says this is for optimal extraction. No. Casa Brews aren't alone in their suggestion that higher maximum pressure equals better extraction, but it's just silly, and I'll explain why. Pumps create flow. Pressure builds depending on resistance to that flow. The rating of the pump in bars is a maximum pressure it will generate against full resistance. If you completely block the flow with a blind basket, for example, the maximum pump pressure would then be reached, if there's no OPV, which we'll get to in a sec. What has this got to do with optimal extraction? Absolutely nothing. In fact, it's impossible to brew at the rated pump pressure, as you've got no flow at that pressure. So if you were achieving the max pressure, it means you've completely choked the machine. You might get a few drips of espresso as a puck degrades under high pressure and a few channels burst through, but I wouldn't call that optimal extraction. This usually wouldn't happen though because of the OPV, overpressure valve, which leads us to, what's the overpressure valve setting? The OPV or overpressure valve in this is set to about 15 bars, so I'm told by Casa Brews. It's normal to have a higher pressure OPV on machines like this that come with pressurised and non-pressurised baskets, because pressurised baskets are usually designed to build up about 12 bars of pressure and then force the espresso through one small hole to mimic the crema we associate with espresso. This doesn't mean, by the way, that if you use the standard baskets that this also comes with, you're brewing at 15 bars. The OPV setting is a maximum pressure that will build up in the basket before the valve releases the excess. So whether the maximum pressure during the extraction is 8 bars, 9 bars or more like 11 or 12 bars or higher depends on the grind size. If it had a 9 bar OPV, then the maximum pressure in the basket would always be 9 bars, which makes life a bit easier, that's all. In an ideal world, machines like this that come with both sets of baskets would also have an externally adjustable OPV, so you can change it depending on the basket you're using. Or ideally, allow you to choose whatever OPV setting you want, as there's a trend towards lower OPV settings. Lots of people have changed their Gaggia Classic OPVs to 6 bars with the Shades of Coffee OPV Spring Set, for example, and haven't looked back. Right now, it's unlikely you'll get a machine at this kind of price with an externally adjustable OPV, but I think it's coming. The Profitec Go has this feature, and I believe this is selling very well. The Me Coffee Apex version 2 and the video review for this will pop up here at the end of this video, also has this feature. And people want this, so I think we're going to start seeing new machines like this hitting the market at lower and lower price points and selling like hotcakes. And I think eventually it'll just be a given that machines like this have an externally adjustable OPV. At the time of filming though, I don't know any machines at this price point with an externally adjustable OPV. The Gaggia Espresso, not the classic, the newer, lower-priced Espresso Style, Deluxe and Evolution, can be very simply modded to 9 bars or lower with the Shades of Coffee OPV springs, link in description. What's the espresso like? If you've watched any of my other espresso machine reviews, you'll notice I always answer this question, even though it's not really all that relevant. And I do this to try to highlight the fact that the espresso machine itself isn't the most important thing when it comes to espresso taste. Quality of the espresso machine can certainly help. For example, better temperature stability means better shot-to-shot consistency. The aforementioned OPV can make it easier to get better tasting shots. But espresso quality mainly comes down to the coffee beans and how well extracted the espresso is, which comes down to the grinder and your barista skills. So what the espresso will taste like will come down to the grinder you pair it with, the beans you're using, and your ability to dial in to get the best from the beans you're using. Speaking of coffee beans, let's have a word from our sponsor. This week I was supposed to be promoting a new pair of golfing shoes, but there was a hole in one.
Get off the stage.
So this week, incredibly, the sponsor is me. My coffee beans from seaworks.co.uk are all freshly roasted, usually on the day of dispatch. We have a range of 20 different coffees at the time of filming, including some very forgiving, easy to dial in beans, such as our bestseller chocolate brownie blend and our latest bean dark chocolate and hazelnut Brazil. Want to try them? Of course you do. Use discount code YT25 for 25% off your first order at seaworks.co.uk. It has a shot timer. It does, in half-second increments, which is quite unusual. I don't think it matters, half a second isn't going to make much of a difference, but to have a shot timer at all for this price is really good. I love a shot timer, me. The timer kicks in when steaming milk too, which I think is quite handy. What's the steam wand like? It works well, it's very consistent and it'll produce very good milk texture. The whole process from pressing the steam button will take about 1 minute and 20 seconds to 1 minute and 30, depending on the amount of milk you're steaming. It's not quite as fast as the steam wand on the Sage or Breville machines, but it does the job well. The timer automatically runs when you're steaming milk too, as I've mentioned, and I find this really convenient. What this means is that as long as you're using the same quantity of milk at about the same starting temperature, you can use a thermometer once, and just go about how long it took, and after that, just steam it for that amount of time. Does this have a 3-way solenoid valve? Yes, apparently it does, and that's quite an impressive thing for a machine at this price with everything else it has going for it. I have to say though, it doesn't seem to behave to me as though it does have a 3-way solenoid. I was fairly certain it had a spring valve until I contacted Casa Brews, who assured me that this does in fact have a 3-way solenoid. Having a 3-way valve isn't the be-all and end-all. It means that the excess water and pressure are instantly ejected from the group immediately after pulling the shot. Also, machines without a 3-way valve, which usually have spring valves instead, can be a bit all or nothing when it comes to water pressure. So one of the benefits of having a solenoid valve machine is a more gentle flow of water through the shower screen. This does appear to have a fairly gentle float through the shower screen, but it doesn't seem to instantly eject the excess water and pressure after pulling the shot, as I'd expect it to. So it could possibly be that the solenoid valve has an issue. I'll let my espresso machine engineer friend Radu have a look and see the pinned comments for an update. So we're going to test, or I'm going to show you what I mean about it not looking like it has a 3-way solenoid valve. Casa Brews are adamant that it does have a 3-way solenoid valve, and you'd think they'd know. And they've told us this test we can do, which is called a leak test. You can use it to run a descale cycle, a backflush cycle. And to do that, so I've put 58mm backflush disc in from the Sage or Breville Joe Boiler and Oracle, etc. To get into this leak test mode that you can also use for back flushing, unplug it and then putting the portafilter in with the blind disc in. Press and hold the 2 shot buttons and then plug it back in. You'll see it's counting down. But there's the end of the cycle. Ejected. See that burst out the sides, which you wouldn't really expect. So I'm not saying it hasn't got a 3-way solenoid valve, but I'm saying it doesn't act like any other 3-way solenoid valve that I've ever used before. Who's this for? I think this is for people who are focusing on optimal shot quality and who want to spend as little of their budget as possible on the espresso machine so they can invest more of their budget on the grinder. For example, anyone who was thinking of going for the DeLonghi Stylosa or Dedica may benefit from going for this instead, at least where performance is concerned, for better temperature stability, adjustable brew temperature and programmable shot buttons. I should be clear though and say that while I think this performs better than the lower priced DeLonghi traditional machines, DeLonghi have an amazing track record for creating low cost machines that just keep on going. So I'm talking here about performance and short-term value, not necessarily long-term value for money. How does this compare to the Sage or Breville espresso machines? I said that I think this looks like a cross between the Temp Pro and the Bambino, and I think that's basically what it is in terms of performance, with a couple of pros and cons. It has just a slightly bigger footprint than the Temp Pro, so it's just a bit more steady on the counter than the Bambino, which is one of the reasons some people decide to go for the Temp Pro versus the Bambino. Like the Bambino, though, it has programmable shot buttons. It has a PID, as the Bambino and Temp Pro do, but it's adjustable with 4 temperature settings versus the fixed settings on the Bambino and Temp Pro. Casa Brews state that it has a 3-way solenoid valve, which the Temp Pro and Bambino don't have. These are Sage or Breville's only machines without 3-way solenoid valves. The pump on the Casa Brews is just slightly quieter, about 48 decibels at 1 metre versus roughly 55 for the Temp Pro and Bambino. 7 decibels doesn't make much difference, and grinding and steaming milk is louder anyway. But there's noticeably less cup walk on the Casa Brews. You can completely stop cup walk, by the way, with a rubber mat. The cons of the Casa Brews versus the Sage machines, though. For one, the Bambino and Temp Pro have an OPV set to around 9 bars, and the Casa Brews is about 15 bars. The steam power is slower on the Casa Brews, including steam ready time, about 5 seconds slower to steam 170ml of milk to 60 degrees Celsius versus the Temp Pro, and about 25 seconds slower than the Bambino. Casa Brews are a newer brand, so you're not buying into the brand history that you are with Sage and with other very well-known brands. I can't quite tell what the warranty situation is with Casa Brew machines, as there's no note of this on Amazon. On their US website it states 1-year warranty. Sage machines tend to last a long time, especially the Temp Pro with the original thermocoil and with very little componentry to go wrong. I regularly hear from people who've had their Temp Pro for like 5 or 10 years without issues. If you're one of those people, let me know in the comments below. Ta! Sage machines come with a 2-year warranty in the UK and the rest of Europe, and you can get support after this. Yes, you have to pay for it after this, but it's there, as are the parts. And you don't have to go through their official channels either. You can save money by getting the parts yourself or finding an independent engineer to sort it for you. When you're buying a machine like this, it's sometimes a bit more of a challenge when there's an issue to resolve outside of the warranty period. And I say when, not if, because no espresso machines at all will just keep on going forever. They all have parts that will need replacing over time. With machines like this that have been sold under different brand names, the parts are usually available, but it can require just a bit more research and effort. What do I like about it? The list of features for this kind of price point, including the programmable shot buttons and adjustable brew temperature, I think offers very good value for money, and I think it looks good too for the price. I particularly like how quiet it is and the lack of violent vibrations. Also, the shot timer and the steam timer are quite surprising features given the cost. What don't I like about it? Not much. It's really hard to be overcritical of this machine given the features and the price point. As I've said, I think a 9-bar OPV or an adjustable OPV would be ace, but that's asking for a lot at this price. Given that it does have a 3-way valve according to Casa Brews, I'd prefer it to act like it does when it comes to ejecting the water and pressure from the group after pulling shots. Is this a lower price machine that has taken me by surprise? Yes, it is. Do I think it is a straight alternative to either the Temp Pro or the Bambino, which is clearly aimed at? No, I don't. It's not quite to that standard. It doesn't have the brand history behind it. It doesn't have the 9-part OPV or the pump-controlled slow ramp-up pre-infusion. But it does tick a lot of boxes I didn't expect it to tick at this cost. This is a lot for the money, and if I was looking for the best bang-for-buck espresso machine to pair with my choice of grinder, which as I've said in other videos is a sensible approach that nearly no one takes, I think this machine is a really interesting option, at least where performance is concerned, versus the slightly lower cost alternatives that I've mentioned.
Adicant9476 commented on the Me Coffee Apex version 2 review. Does it dispense hot water for Americans too?
No, it doesn't. Sorry, you'll have to use a kettle. Thank you very much for watching, and a special thank you to all of the new channel members.
Thank you.
If you want to join in the fun, click the join button, which is down here somewhere, just near my right knee. If you enjoyed this video, drop us a like, it really helps. And if you want more coffee content, click on my face to subscribe. Tatty bye!